everyone, and welcome back to Luxxfolio's channel. We're sitting here once again with Dean. We wanted to dive into some company updates and dive into the Bitcoin crypto industry as a whole a little bit again today. So, Dean, how you doing? You ready to get into it?
I'm good, and I'm ready to get into it.
Great. So let's talk about your guys' closing of the acquisition for 2,400 Bitcoin miners first, and then just give us an update on how the mining operation is going as a whole so far.
Yeah, so I think that this month is going to kick off kind of a pretty exciting summer for us. We're going to plug in 590 miners, probably third week of June, and begin sort of generating some Bitcoin this summer. In September, we're expecting sort of the first tranche of those 2,400 miners begin to come in. And by mid-2022, we will be fully operational with all 3,000 miners. So I think that the next 6 months here really sort of kick off the next phase of Luxxfolio, and really we're going to begin to see what sort of revenue generating company Luxxfolio is going to be. We'll know that in the next 6 months as we add those miners to our portfolio.
Wonderful, Dean. Yeah, Bitcoin mining or crypto mining as a whole is one of the most interesting investments you can make, because as soon as you get them up and running, it's just bam, they are now officially validating transactions and generating Bitcoin or Ethereum, whatever it is you have them doing, which is great. And a lot of people are starting to recognize this, and you're seeing places like even El Salvador officially making Bitcoin a national legal tender. Like, they're recognizing it finally, and that's like one of the biggest milestones. I don't know who would have thought that someone would have did this, and it's really interesting to see it coming from El Salvador. Can you tell us your thoughts on this?
I was struck by the age of the president of El Salvador. I think that that young man recognizes and has a unique perspective from a world leader's standpoint on what Bitcoin can really do and how it can impact not only El Salvador and South America, but the whole world. He's in stark contrast with some of the Western leaders that we see. Donald Trump mentioned that Bitcoin's a scam, and I heard Barry Diller call it a scam, and I heard Charlie Munger say some bad things about Bitcoin. Each and every time when I hear these guys speak out about it, my ears really perk up, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'm going to learn something about Bitcoin that is going to change my enthusiasm, kind of temper my enthusiasm. Okay. And each and every time, as they dig into it a little bit more, I find that, geez, that was kind of an uninformed opinion. There's kind of this feeling amongst older successful people that, I don't really want to know anything about Bitcoin, because unlike that young fella who's setting policy in El Salvador, who's looking forward the next 20 years, a lot of us older guys that have been successful in North America are looking at it and going, we're looking back the last 20 years and going, geez, it really worked out well for me the way it is, and I don't want it to change. I think that's a real misconception that somehow, Bitcoin is undoing a system that's working. Bitcoin will replace a system that has proven throughout human history will ultimately fail. Central bank policy being set by people and by men that will ultimately end up doing it for self-serving reasons, it always fails. It always has, it always will. And Bitcoin sort of sets up for being a rules-based distributed ledger technology that is, it doesn't care if you're Warren Buffett or you're, some guy in El Salvador. It doesn't care. It treats everybody the same. And that's pretty promising for the future, I think.
Well, one of the simplest ways to look at it, at least I think in my mind, is think about the investment advice, which I'm not here to give investment advice, but I'm saying the investment advice you would give to a young person versus someone in their 50s or 60s. You're much more conservative when you're giving advice to people in their 50s or 60s, because should they make a large risk and lose on it, the chances of them having time to recover from it are significantly less, right? So naturally, as you get older, you wind up with, here's a system of things that I know work, and I'm going to play my cards that way. This works. Something new comes along, you have less of an inclination to move towards it. when you're young, you play enough bets, and yes, you might wind up playing some risky bets. But as long as you're educated about what it is you're doing, there's a good chance you're going to come up overall, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of like that same mindset going on there.
You know, my son is going to school, going to college this fall, and I'm encouraging him with his, you know, with what he's doing this summer for work. I'm saying, look, every paycheck, buy a little Bitcoin. I think, because he's 18, and he's got sort of a lot of life to live in front of him, and I think that is an incredible opportunity for young people, uniquely a uniquely good for young people opportunity.
Mhm.
So I think that I'm happy for finally there is something that is going to give the next generation a little bit of hope that they're going to be able to sort of prosper in this new system, as opposed to watching real estate go through the roof and all asset classes just explode in value. And guess what? They're not going to be able to participate in that.
That's a
But
good
they
point.
can participate in a big way in the new sort of crypto revolution that I believe is upon us.
Dean, you make a really good point, and essentially the game that used to be played is a game that is no longer available to play. It's not there, and the advice often given is antiquated, or it's just really old at this point. It's old
Absolutely.
advice about how to invest, how to buy your first house, even how to get a job, walking in somewhere with a resume looking all bright and shiny, and demanding to talk to the manager, shake their hand, and
Yeah.
essentially a lot of the old ways just do not work anymore. So you got to kind of, this generation's trying to carve its own path, and I think they're doing an okay job, and I think we're going to get there.
I'm super. I have to say, the more I learn about the impact that distributed ledger technology and Bitcoin will have on society, and it's very difficult to find something, a problem that it doesn't solve. And for those people that haven't delved into it enough to really kind of get their head around that, um, I suggest that they do before they have anything bad to say about it at all, because it
Yeah.
truly does make one quite optimistic about my view, at least, of the future.
Yeah, I mean, by all means, everybody who's involved with it. I mean, there's some really smart people behind Bitcoin, right? And
Yes.
there's nothing wrong with having a different opinion about something. There's not. If you do a bunch of research and you still wind up being, hey, I don't agree with Bitcoin. You know what? That's fine. But at least do yourself the service of doing the research, and that's what you should do with any sort of potential speculation or investment. Do your own research and come to your own educated conclusion. Don't follow anybody else.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Dean. Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing the updates and your wisdom on this most recent news. Do you have any last words for people before we go?
That's it, Michael. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next week.
Wonderful. We'll talk to you then. Everyone, don't forget to stay tuned for more exciting updates.